in child protective services, and they won't give them back to their loving families because they're making money.
This is a legal system that you're going into. And if you don't know the rules, you will be chewed up and spit out.
If I could say anything to a mother who just got their children detained, you're in a crisis. Yeah. Life feels like it's over. The most important thing is regaining custody of your children.
The child welfare system at its core is designed to protect children who need protection. Okay, and that's key, is who need protection.
So social workers, out of fear, will remove more children rather than only remove those children that truly need to be removed.
It's okay. It's okay.
This isn't someone stole your car. Someone broke into your house. This someone took your child, your flesh and blood.
It doesn't say on this order that it was not proven. It says untrue. True. I immediately knew that, okay, well, this ain't over.
Were there signs there? Were there no signs? Did I miss them? Did I catch them? At this point, I honestly don't know.
Families only get a finite amount of time to reunify.
I came into this field to help families, not destroy them.
The difference between the criminal system and the child welfare system is substantial. You have more rights as a criminal than you do as a parent.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Fight With Me Fridays. I'm here again with our guest, Laura. We're going to be talking about mental health today. So I want to start off by saying good morning. It is a beautiful morning here, despite the fog. And yes, I woke up like this. It's early for me here. So Laura, how are you doing this morning?
I'm here.
Great. So let's start this day by taking a really deep breath in. Like one, we're going to count to 5. So deep breath in, 1, 3, 4, 5, and then hold. And we're going to exhale for 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. And today's a beautiful day. We are still here. Okay. We are still fighting. Our kids are still here. So it's not over yet. All right. So, Laura, I'm sorry. I just had a Samantha call on my phone. Like I said, it's early, guys. So, Laura, you have had a lot of experience, learning coping skills for your mental health and kind of dealing with those things. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I've learned the 5 things you see, 5 things you hear, or 4 things you hear, like that thing.
Yeah, the 5.
Huh?
Does it go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1?
Yeah.
Okay, I've heard of that one before, and I've had to use.
I'll wait and do it too late, and I can't get past 3, so it hasn't worked for me, but it's a good one if you can do it soon enough.
I've done it before, and it does help. Okay. So it's called the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 coping technique for anxiety. So you do 5 things that you see around you, 4 things you can touch around you, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. So it just kind of brings all of your senses into the current moment. Now we're going to be talking about trauma responses today as well. That's going to be the focus of today's show. Oh, here, sorry. Let me take my jacket off. I just realized there was a logo there that probably isn't appropriate. Okay. All right. So, have you ever heard of the 4 trauma responses? Flight, fight, freeze, and fawn?
I've heard of fight and flight. That's it.
Right. Fight or flight is like the typical, like when you're in a traumatic situation that's happening right now, it triggers either a fight or a flight. But we're talking more about trauma responses in the long term, like after the trauma has already happened, after you've already initially decided on that fight or flight. So flight looks kind of like, you're like a workaholic, you're overthinking, you have anxiety or panic or, OCD, you have difficulty sitting still, you're kind of a perfectionist, you're like hyper focused. And what it is sometimes called is hypervigilance, where you're just like zooming in on anything that could be a potential threat, and you want to you want to do something about that threat. Now, the fight response that can look like anger outbursts, mood swings, being controlling, coming off as the bully. Some people might say you're acting narcissistic, or having explosive behavior. And then you have your freeze response. So your freeze response, or some people call this freeze trauma, or trauma paralyzation. I have been experiencing a lot of this lately, where you have difficulties making decisions, you just kind of feel stuck. You start dissociating with yourself and things around you. You tend to self-isolate. And then we have our fawn response, where you just want to please people around you. You don't really have a solid sense of identity, so you kind of lack that identity. You have difficulty setting boundaries with people around you. You often feel overwhelmed. And you could also become codependent in your relationships in your life. And all of these, even though isolated, some of these responses may seem healthy, normal, maybe even helpful. But as a whole, it actually isn't healthy for you. It is a response to the trauma that you've experienced. And it's not uncommon for people to kind of go between these responses, the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And I do that, it could change by the hour. It could change by the day. You could go through more long-term cycles. And so being able to identify those is key in learning the coping skills and getting the help that you need to treat those, so that you can reach that emotional and mental stability, which is, that's what my personal goal is. And that's what we all should want to accomplish as adults in this world, in this society. We just want to be stable. We don't want to put any more trauma out there in the world. We don't want to cause people pain. So in order to keep that from happening, especially, when somebody has PTSD, a lot of times they will hurt those around them unintentionally. So, I just want to jump right into it. So this is our kickoff episode. So welcome, everyone. I would like to talk about, a little bit about myself and, my life and some of the things that I've been through. And Laura, if you're comfortable, feel free to share some of yours.
Okay.
So I was born abroad in Germany. I came to the States when I was maybe 6, 7, something like that. My father was a commander in the military. My family they were Mormons growing up. Everyone, I came from a Mormon family. Yes, you heard that correctly. I'm no longer a member of that church. I do not associate with it. I'm not bashing the religion. I just, it's not a good fit for me. After everything happened with my children, I completely turned away from God, the concept of whatever God is, and any concept of religion. I'm slowly kind of coming back. I just started going to this Filipino church. They're non-denominational. It's pretty cool. But just like finding the right therapist, you just kind of have to date around until you find what fits. But everybody needs a higher power. Otherwise, there's nothing to hold us morally accountable for our decisions. There's nothing beyond what we see, to kind of keep us level, keep us hoping and looking forward to something. Laura, do you go to church, or are you religious, spiritual?
I am not religious.
Yeah.
And I don't know if everybody's postpartum psychosis issue, goes towards religion, but mine did.
Well, that's good.
I don't
I'm
know.
sure.
It wasn't. It was the devil that I seen, but I don't
Mm.
know why it did. It was just weird.
No, no worries. Well, there's evil in this world, I can tell you that. None of us know for certain, what really is out there on the other side, or where do we really go? We don't have those questions answered. And as much as we want to come off like we do have the answers, or, oh, my church is the true church. That's what the Mormons always said. We are the one true church in the world. I'm like, yeah, kiss my ass. Excuse my French. But no, I left the church. I left all concept of religion I turned away from. But I did stay spiritual. I was just, whatever God is, I was very angry. I was very angry with it, him, whatever you want to call his pronoun. But I'm slowly pulling myself back in. I do have some more books I want to share with you today. I'm a book nerd. If you watch my shows, I usually share some kind of reading material. Reading is something that's helpful for me. I came, so back to my story. I came from a very mentally and emotionally abusive family. Both my parents were extremely intelligent. I'm the oldest daughter of 10 siblings. So I have 7 brothers and 2 sisters. And I ended up raising a lot of them and taking care of the household. And instead of, getting the support and the approval from my mom that I needed, I was often severely mentally and emotionally abused. I was ostracized in my own family. I spent a lot of my time locked up in my room. I didn't really have friends. I didn't really have the chance to learn, the social skills that are important for you to learn at a young age. So here I was in my 20s, just starting from square one. And let me tell you, I've had a lot of awkward, cringy moments because of that. I wish I had like the skills. I've always wanted to be able to kind of talk to anyone. I've always been a little bit envious to those people who could just have like that casual elevator conversation with anyone from any walk of life. I don't know how to connect with people in that way, but I've always wanted to. Growing up, our family was in very much disarray. It was like we were moving in a fishbowl. We walk into a room and people started whispering. That was very embarrassing growing up. I didn't really know how to handle that. And my parents' responses to that were just to make fun of every single person that they knew, like they were better than them. And, it was really hard watching that. They were just very, very judgmental people, which was often confusing for me because they had no place to really be judging anyone. But at the end of the day, they are still my parents. I still love them. It's going to take time to work through all the abuse that happened. My brothers witnessed a lot of it. And that was pretty damaging to our relationship. Growing up, as adults, we're kind of, working on it now. A lot of my siblings are slowly moving away, but every time we get together, we just kind of talk about all the fucked up things that happened in our household growing up. But I will say this, and I read this in an article on a show the other day, even when a child lives in a home that's not perfect. And like, when I say my home wasn't perfect, I'm telling you, like at one point we had 27 cats. Yes, we had 27 cats. CPS finally showed up at our door one day. I'm amazed that me and my kids were never separated, but try taking 10 kids into foster care. That's probably the only reason why. But I mean, our house, when I say it was filthy, like it was very, very dirty as a child. I would try to clean up when and where I could as I got older, and I was kind of the only person who did. And I just, all of those normal things that you learn to do at a young age, I never got to learn. I'm just going to be honest. We were barely fed, God forbid me or my brothers like wanted a fucking sandwich, and here's my dad. Oh, you guys are just fucking eating everything. And, making us feel horrible for like sustaining our life with food. Anyway, but we'll unpack some of that little by little. I finally found a really great therapist. I think I had my first session last week, and I have not had a lot of luck finding, a therapist that really works for me. When I started hitting puberty, that's kind of when all hell broke loose at home. My mom, she already didn't really like me for whatever reason, even though I would go out of my way to seek her approval. And some people today say they're empaths, but really you're not an empath. You just, to survive, you had to learn to identify any threat in the room, especially when you're in a place where you're being so badly, abused mentally and emotionally. So, when anything slightly was askew, I immediately noticed. I picked up on it right away. And I jumped through hoops to try to make it better, because if I didn't, that means I was going to face the consequences for that later. So, it was it became kind of my job to hold everything together. But while I'm sitting here trying to hold this fucked up family together, which barely was even working, I was being punished for it. And it was almost what it felt like for me was the more that I tried to help and, just bent over backwards, trying to make my family okay or functional, the more I was punished for it, the more she hated me. So, our relationship even to this day is still very damaged. I'll never be close with my mom, probably. I doubt it. But if I ever had to take care of her, I'll give her one of the 7 bedrooms I have here. And please excuse, I am still trying to work on putting my house together. There's just literally so much. But yeah, let's go back to the trauma responses. So I want to talk about the flight response. So being a workaholic, I'll tell you a little bit about what I do. During the CPS case, I became a realtor. I made $15,000 in 1 month, but I kind of spent it all paying off debt that I turned around and got myself back into. So, could have done better with that. I'm in my pre-law classes right now, and I start law school next fall. I'm going to get my public law degree. I should be done with that this fall. I own a cleaning business. I've owned a cleaning business for several years. I honestly can't remember the last time I worked a 9 to 5. And, I work with these shows, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be able to do that. And I just got another job on the side, serving alcohol. So I actually start today is my first day. So, I struggle with this because, like I said before, something that may seem healthy at first isn't actually very healthy. I'm spread so thin, but I just difficulty sitting still was another one of the triggers for the flight response. It's very hard for me to sit still with myself. I always have to be doing something. And you can't, if you're chasing 2 rabbits, you're not going to catch either one of them, is what they say. The saying goes something like that. And that's what I'm doing, really, I took a bucket of shit, threw it at the wall, and I'm going to see what sticks and what doesn't. Can you relate to any of these responses, Laura?
I can. I also can't sit still, and then if I get cornered, I'll have that fight, and I'll do anything I have to get out of that corner.
Oh, so yeah, if you feel cornered, so you easily feel suffocated sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. I can relate to that as well. At the height of everything happening on my case, I completely lost touch. And this falls under the freeze response. I completely lost touch with reality. I would look outside my window and see the sky was blue, but I couldn't understand why is the sky blue? Why does grass grow? What is our government? Nothing made sense to me anymore. And if we live in a world where you can just come rip away innocent children from their families and just completely rape that parent over and over again in court, you know, with just no empathy, no humanity, no compassion. And I mean, I just couldn't swallow that. You know, everything that I believed about this world and you know, what the society that we lived in, everything that I had come to understand, I felt like was a lie. It just fell apart. The fabric of my reality completely fell apart. And mind you, the entire time this was happening, I was completely alone to deal with this by myself. I attempted suicide, you know, a couple times. And I almost succeeded on one of them. So when I said yesterday that you're not alone, you're not alone. It's just that the pain was just, it was just too much. You know, a human being can only experience but so much trauma and pain until they just start to shut down. And that can have, you know, some very permanent and serious consequences for the rest of our lives. And I think about our children, you know, what kinds of trauma, like how are they going to unpack this trauma? You know? What is another coping skill, if you have any, that you've learned that you find helpful?
I used to journal a lot, but
That's
it don't really help. It just, with my memory being messed up, it kind of helps me remember stuff. But
do you have difficulty? Would you say it's more difficult for you to remember short-term things than it is long-term?
Short-term.
Yeah, you have, okay. Right, exactly. And that is 100% PTSD. That's very common. I mean, my short-term memory is bogus. Like if I carry a planner with me everywhere, because if I have to do something and it doesn't make it in here, it might as well not exist. I'm not going to remember it. Yeah, like at all. I could tell you.
I still have PTSD from my childhood, so everything just piled on top of me, just one by one. So,
do you want to talk a little bit about your childhood?
I don't remember much past or before the age of 11, but at that time I was raped at my brother's ball game.
I'm so sorry.
And then I self-medicated for years. And then at age 14 was my first suicide attempt. And then I had to tell my mom and dad why. Mom told me I deserved it. And
what is it with mothers and their daughters? Like some of these mothers just, why did you not just throw me out the fucking window when you realized it was a girl? You know?
That's what I said. Like, why'd you keep me?
I'm sorry that I have a vagina. You know, it's like, you know, our Black community, like, you know, it's like they're being punished just for being Black. You know, they didn't do anything to deserve it. You know, they had no control over it. And it's just, yeah, it's really sad. It's sad.
Yeah. She like, my brother's the golden child. He's her boy. I mean, she even treats her kids different.
Yes. She treated my brothers so much better than she ever treated me. You were allowed to get and do and go anywhere that they wanted. And here I am, like, you know, God, I just scrubbed like this completely filthy house. At one point, we had to be quarantined. This was before COVID. This was long before COVID. This was like early 2000s. We caught a virus called Shigella. Do you know what that is? Because you're an LPN. Have you never heard of Shigella? Let me see if I can look this up. Shigella. Okay. I mean, like, when I tell you this story, it's crazy. Okay. Or it's also called Shigellosis. And the first thing that popped up is the CDC. I mean, this is a serious virus. Okay. Shigella bacteria cause an infection called Shigellosis. Most people with Shigella infection have diarrhea, blah, blah, blah. Okay, symptoms begin 1 to 2 days after the infection. They last 7 days. Most people recover. Okay. Washing your hands. So I can't really find anything that causes it, but basically because of the 27 cats that we had at one point, The conditions were so bad. Okay. I'm kind of I'm getting nervous about sharing this. You know, I was a young child. I didn't have a lot of control over my environment. In fact, I had none. But still, it's like embarrassing, like saying it out loud. You're just like, it hits you. You're like, whoa, that was pretty fucked up. No, but the health conditions, like the sanitary conditions of my home environment were that bad that we caught like a very like serious bacterial virus. And like, I mean, they came over in hazmat suits. Like they had to collect our stools. Like they would wrap this thing around the toilet. It was crazy. It was crazy. And yeah, it was because of the bacteria from all the cats that we had. I mean, I remember like, oh God, this is going to sound, because I have people on this case who watch this show. I guarantee I'm going to hear this in the next court date. I promise you they're going to say something. I mean, but look at my house. Like, it's not like I live like, you know, like a filthy animal, you know. I keep my stuff pretty clean. I'm still kind of like working through my trauma. So it's hard to stay organized with so much going on, like mentally and just in my day to day, and all of the things that I do. But you know, I did recover. No, it was really humiliating. Like I grew up in an environment where nothing really made sense. You know, it felt like our family against the world. You know, that's kind of the picture that my parents painted for us. But then within my home life, it was everybody in my family against me. And I'm not saying that in a way to invoke sympathy or feel sorry for me or anything like that. You know, it's just what I was able to make sense of later as an adult. And yeah, I became, I guess what was called a frustrated extrovert. Like I really wanted to connect with people around me. And I started confiding in, you know, people like close to, who I thought were close to my family in church. And that kind of backfired. You know, things would get back to my mom and she would just paint me out to be a liar. And it was sad. You know, something happened to my little sister when she was younger. And when I found out, I lost it. I actually think I tried to kill the person at one point who did it to her. And it was just a very sad and confusing and difficult situation. And it was just like that for my entire life. You know, like when you grow up in such a dysfunctional home, you know, it really wreaks havoc on you as an adult. And that's why, you know, it breaks my heart to think about what these kids are going through in foster care, you know. And like I said, even though you'll hear some really bizarre things about my life growing up, but even in spite of that, me and my brothers and sisters were still better off growing up in that fucked up home environment than we would have been in foster care. You know, and it is what it is. It is what it is. But both of my parents had severe undiagnosed mental health issues. And that's why, you know, I try to stay as aware as I can of my own mental health. But, you know, I do lose it sometimes. You know, and it's really important to seek professional help and process and work through all of those things. Otherwise they will continue to affect your adult life. So you look like you have something to share. Any thoughts on that?
It will affect your adult life. Like I still have the trauma from the rape years ago. So not working through it, not finding the right therapist to work with me is a big challenge.
Yeah, it is. I was actually really nervous starting this session, and it's also virtual. And I like to try to make an impression in person first. But to my surprise, the session was wonderful. I mean, I felt after we were done, I felt like, you know what, I can really do this. Like this is going to be a good thing. But
I've
healing
thought about hypnosis.
Me too. I've considered hypnosis. I would like to try acupuncture and cupping. You know, a lot of people don't know that we store our trauma in our tissues. Or like we literally do store our trauma in our tissues, and it later causes disease. It leads to disease later in life. If you break down the root word of disease, it's literally dis-ease. So, it's important to release that, but releasing it's painful. It's painful. And you can't do it on your own. You have to have somebody outside of yourself to help you, work through all of those things. And then, growing up in abusive environments, causes us to develop a lot of untruths about ourselves and the world. We believe things about ourselves that aren't true. Often, like, the one that I struggle with the most is that I'm not good enough. And that kind of, and that brings us into the trauma response fawning. I always want people to like me. I just want everyone to like me. I feel like I don't know who I am. Like, sometimes I do, but often, I don't feel really rooted in my own identity. I have a really hard time establishing boundaries with people. Like, I've been in situations where, at the very least, I should have told them off, if not more. But instead, when I find myself trying to speak my mind and set those boundaries, and I'm the one here apologizing for your violation of my boundaries. Why am I apologizing to you? And I'll think back on it later, and I'm like, what the hell did I have to be sorry about? They should have been the ones that were sorry. So, and that also leads to, like, codependent relationships. I was never loved. I was never loved. I never felt loved. I was never really shown love growing up. I mean, like, they had moments every now and then. It's not like, my parents weren't evil. But abuse is abuse, and my mom was sick, and she still is. And I don't want to say she had no control over it and it wasn't her fault, because she's a grown-ass woman and she knew what she was doing. I was her child, for fuck's sake. But I until I had children, I never understood what love really was. And then, just being a single mom, I guess you could say, because of my upbringing, that's what led me into the extremely abusive relationship I ended up being in with the father of my children. And I'm still paying for that dearly to this day. I think I'll be paying for that for the rest of my life. And so will my kids, which is sad. But just the need, like, the desperate need for someone to love and accept you for who you are. It very often leads us into these unhealthy, codependent, toxic, abusive relationships. And let's be real, if you're not healthy and stable mentally and emotionally in your own life, you don't belong in a relationship with someone else. You have to be okay, with what you're bringing to the table, before you can expect to have a healthy relationship with someone else.
I always say I don't want to give somebody else my crazy.
Right. Listen, yeah. I found someone who I love so very much, who did love and accept me for who I am. But because of everything going on right now, just the relationship wasn't healthy. It wasn't healthy. I was just dealing with too much. And again, it became a codependent relationship. I still see him every single day. He is still here in my corner. We just kind of had to take some time, separate households. My house is way cooler than his, but it's okay. But it happens. It happens. I still wasn't in a place where I could bring what he deserved to the table. And hopefully one day, that can change. But, for now, I just really need to work on myself. And you have to learn how to be okay by yourself before you can be with someone else. So, question, what are your thoughts on medication, like antipsychotic drugs?
God. Okay, I have a drug history problem, or
like substance abuse,
drug problem, and the medication they want me on keeps me on the down spectrum of my bipolar issues, and it usually keeps me below down to where I'm having suicidal thoughts every day. So I don't have to take it. If I do take anything, it's Well, when I did take something that helped and that got me happy, medicated happy, it was a narcotic and they ain't going to give it to me. So I'm not going to take the stuff that's going to keep me down if it's going to keep me down.
Narcotics like what? Like stimulant?
Like a Lord have.
Like Adderall or something?
Lord have.
What?
A Lord have.
Oh, I don't know what that is. I've never heard of it.
It's painkiller.
I see. I thank God that the one thing that I was never able to, jive with was opiates. My body rejects them every single time. I was actually recently assaulted. And it was actually it was like honestly not longer than a week ago. And I ended up in the hospital, and because some of my tissues were torn, it was somebody who was doing work on my house, and yeah, he's a piece of shit. I've actually got a detective coming over in about an hour or two to collect the rest of the evidence. But no, they gave me, I guess it's called Roxy. I threw it right up. Threw it right up. My body cannot do it. It won't take it.
That's what I OD'd on.
I thank God for that, because I have in general, I have a pretty addictive personality. That could work in my favor sometimes. Like a couple of years ago, I was addicted to, running, meditating, exercise, eating healthy. And I was at like the peak physical fitness of my life. But yeah, and I'm trying really hard to get back to that place. I really was very mindful. Like I was aware, I was present, and it was great. It was great. So I'm gonna try to get back to that place, guys, and I'll keep you included on that journey. So maybe like 10 shows from now, I'll be like half the size I am. I'm kidding. But no, I have struggled finding medications that work. I think medications, in some cases, but I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't have a license to practice medicine. In my personal experience, however, I have noticed that a lot of these medications do more hurt than help, and they don't really treat anything. They mask it, making it more difficult for us to really treat the root of the problem, which, whether it be like you were born with some wires crossed, or, you experienced trauma in your life that has, led you to, having mental issues that you struggle with now. So, yeah, there are some medications that I found helpful, but any mood stabilizer, any antipsychotic, it just either I was like a zombie, or it made me act like really weird. I just wasn't myself. So my goal is I've been without any medication for months. So my goal is to learn how to cope with these things on my own and really get down to the root of the problem.
I'm getting ready to try the EMDR therapy.
I have done that. It is very helpful. It is very helpful. It is hard. Brace yourself, because it's difficult. It's depending on how experienced the therapist is, it like there are tools that they use to bring things from like deep inside your subconscious. So there are going to be like, you're going to remember things that you've been repressing for probably decades. And it's going to be very, like I said, healing is painful. It's going to be very painful to bring that up. But your therapist will be able to help you unpack that. I still figuratively, and like the way that they do these exercises, your brain processes it as though it's real. So I've got a bunch of shit like locked up in a chest under her desk, and like, I mean, it's still there. It's still there. It's like literally it's out of my head and it's in there. And we were going to unpack it when I was ready. But I kind of moved on to other therapists. She was very high in demand, and I had missed some appointments, and she was like, I'm sorry, there's so many people who are waiting so long to see me. This isn't fair. I think her wait time is like 3 months just to see her. Yeah. But she was really good. She was really good. Yes, healing is painful. Healing is painful. But once you release that, once and for all, it just little by little, it's like the weight kind of like is taken off of your shoulders. You're able to like sit a little bit higher, the world isn't so heavy. So I I'm very hopeful for you on your journey with EMDR. And I think that it'll probably be really helpful. And what it does is like they use things like tapping devices. Like, so while you're talking about it, you have these things in your hand and it just kind of alternates. And what I learned in those sessions is that when you're remembering a traumatic experience, your brain remembers it as though it's still happening. Emotional pain, like when it comes to the brain and how it remembers emotional versus physical, your brain doesn't actually remember physical pain. Like say if you remember when you broke your arm, when you're 10 years old or something, your brain's not going to be like, ow, my arm, the pain isn't going to come back. However, when it comes to emotional pain, when you remember that pain, it brings it right back, and your brain is processing that memory as though it is happening right now. And so you re-traumatize yourself every time you think about it. And
that's why I was looking into hypnosis, just to get rid of it.
Yes. I've heard some, skeptics on hypnosis, but at this point, I'm willing to do anything that works. Yeah, anything that helps make me a better person and a better mother for my kids. I'm open to. And EMDR it's a real thing. It's valid. The techniques that they use are sound. They are medically backed. So and these people who do EMDR are trained and they know what they're doing. So your brain will be able to reprocess that memory and realize it's not actually happening right now. So I can store this as a past event. So, are there any experiences that you could share with us, Laura, that have helped you become, more self-aware? Oh, we'll let her go take care of that. Her kiddos are back home, guys. So that is really great news. So what would you say, if any, like, is there any kind of treatment that you've done in the past that you really felt like it was helping you towards stability?
I haven't found anything yet that helps me so far. He's mad.
No worries. No worries. Well, you're going to start EMDR, so I'm sure that'll be very helpful.
Do what? Sorry.
Oh no, I'm sure the EMDR can be really helpful. If you would, if you need to go take care of the other one, you are welcome to do so. It's okay. Just breathe. Just breathe. I'm so happy that your baby is back home. That brings me so much joy. I love hearing success stories. So, oh, Laura, you're on mute.
Yeah, I'm worried about my daughter.
Oh, he wants his tablet.
Yeah.
I want the tablet.
In a minute.
Oh.
Okay, come here.
Okay. So Linda Lee says, for weight gain, I'm looking into hypnosis, but stay on mood meds, doctor given. Major depression, bipolar, and anxiety. Though relative to this page, I am a doctor of 35-year-old with severe FAS. Linda Lee, I don't know what FAS is, but I do know a lot of these medications do cause severe weight gain. So yeah, and one of the another trauma response that is not uncommon, especially with me. I am unofficially diagnosed as borderline. And that was, a lot of it was as a result of my home environment and all of that trauma. But I'm always like kind of like swinging between overeating and not eating at all, overeating on. So I understand. And I wish you luck on your journey. So. All right. Now we will probably end the show a little bit early today. But I want to end with some affirmations. Are you familiar with affirmations, Laura? I find them helpful sometimes. Yes. So affirmations are truths that we tell ourselves. And it's especially helpful for people who've been in abusive childhoods because it helps counteract some of the lies that we've come to believe. Lies like I'm not good enough, or, whatever we were told growing up. And at such a young age, you carry that with you as part of your identity, and that doesn't serve you. It doesn't help you. So we'll go ahead and wrap up for today. Laura, is there anything else that you would like to share on your mental health journey?
Nothing I can think of right now.
Okay.
He's got me kind of free.
Yeah. Well, I wish you the best of luck with your EMDR. So let's end with 3 affirmations. Okay. I am allowed to move past the things and people who no longer bring positivity to my life. I am willing to believe that things will always work out, even when they don't feel like it. And everything is unfolding in perfect timing. I trust, I believe, I receive. So thank you guys for tuning in today. I will have some more material for us next week. And before I go, I'm going to share a couple of things that help me. So I'm a book nerd. I love books. Something that's really cute. I got this little book. It's called Zen as Fuck. They're like these cute little posters. I'm going to put them around my house eventually. But, what does this one say? May your cup runneth the fuck over. Like all of those are so vulgar. This one says chill the fuck out. It's just cute, or it's all brilliant. It's a brilliant fucking day. I just thought it was adorable. Another thing that helps me, because sometimes it's helpful to do something with my motor skills. There's this new thing called paint by sticker. It's I like to nerd out, guys. So like this is the one now. But it's a collection of famous paintings, and because I'm such a dork, I'm obsessed with it. I haven't touched it in a while though. Now this book I'm super excited about. I've read some of Rachel Hollis's works. One of her first books I read was You Are a Badass, and then another one was Girl Wash Your Face. Being at the reading level that I'm at, I felt like her material was a little bit dumbed down, for people who probably don't read a lot, but the material was still pretty great. So, this is a book about unfucking your habitat. It's got a journal for less mess, less stress, and a home you don't hate. And it's just like, it's visually appealing. It's not like a super difficult read. And I think this one, it's $15. You can get it at Barnes and Noble. This book is pretty cool. I like it. So that's what I have to share with you guys today. Let's see. Angel says, my girls were officially released from custody July 12th of last year. Love you guys. Oh, that's so good, Angel. Thank you for sharing that. All right. So we will be going live on Monday again with our CPS current events show. And I apologize again, guys, for my experience. I was up late doing work last night. I just found out that we're about to get a new guardian ad litem for the case. We've been stalling this appeal for a long time. And I'm still being so wrongfully alienated from my kids. So I'm really excited that things are starting to move again. But gonna have a lot of work to do. I mean, this is my second house that I've lived in, because I move about once a year. This is my second house that I've lived in where my children never got to sleep in their own beds. They never, and so I have a lot of renovations going on over here. I've replaced all the floors throughout the house. I got to paint all the walls. There's just little stuff everywhere. The people who lived here before left a bunch of stuff behind. So I've got to haul all of that while running my businesses, and just, it's crazy. It's a lot. Again, that's more of the, what was it? That would fall under the flight response. So I'm just a little bit all over the place, and I'm just trying to zen myself back and bring myself back to center. If I ever was at center, but, yeah, so that's exciting. I've got a lot of work to do. So hopefully I pray. And I put off putting their rooms together. I mean, most of their stuff, I've got like a couple of, garages and a shed, and their stuff is still out there, it's painful to even walk by their rooms and their empty beds, so.
My daughter's room's still like that with her residential.
Yeah, it becomes like it's like a graveyard almost, you know, that just collects dust. And I remember I used to just avoid that part of the house altogether. You know,
But
I
she's
would
got
keep,
Christmas presents in there, birthday presents, and they're just sitting in there
oh, happy
waiting on her.
birthday. Happy birthday. I hope she's doing well. So I'm excited to start this mental health journey with you guys. One of my goals is to learn how to truly love and accept myself, which, you know, I have never been able to do. But I am looking forward to reaching that point of mental and emotional stability, and just really being a healthy person, you know, the best person for my kids that I can be. And finally releasing this trauma and all of these negative things that just don't serve me, you know, that I've been holding on to in my heart. So thank you, Laura, so much for joining me. And
Thank
I'm
you.
so happy that your son is back home. Oh, and I will see you guys on Monday for CPS current events, and that will be at 1 p.m. Pacific time. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.